Everything you are looking for, peace, clarity, stability, joy, already lives within you, but it is hidden. Hidden beneath thoughts that run wild, emotions that come and go like storms, and habits that pull you in directions you never meant to go. The Buddha didn't speak of heaven above or salvation from some external force. He spoke of a liberation that begins in the most intimate, most immediate place possible, your own mind. You see, suffering doesn't begin in the world. It begins in the way the mind perceives the world. And freedom, real freedom, isn't about escaping life. It's about mastering the one thing that shapes every moment of your experience: consciousness. Why master your mind? Because if you don't, something else will. Your anger will. Your fear will. Your conditioning will. Left unattended, the mind becomes a tyrant, creating stress, dissatisfaction, and conflict, even in the most peaceful surroundings. But a mind that is understood, trained, and awakened becomes a refuge, not just for you, but for others. The Buddha himself was once like us, tangled in the confusion of thoughts, desires, and attachments. What made him different was not luck or divine favor. What made him different was that he turned inward, faced the chaos with unwavering attention, and transformed it. This path of inner mastery is not for monks alone. It is not for some future version of yourself who has more time or fewer problems. It is for you, right here, right now. You don't need to change your job, your relationship, or your city. You need to change the relationship you have with your own mind. And here's the truth. No one can do it for you. No one can walk the path, breathe the breath, or quiet the thoughts on your behalf. But once you begin, even with one moment of mindfulness, one breath of clarity, you step into a stream that carries you towards something far greater than relief from stress. It carries you toward inner freedom. The Buddha didn't offer beliefs. He offered a blueprint, a timeless method to free the mind from suffering. And now, that blueprint is in your hands. Are you ready to follow it? Number 1, the mind is the root of all things. If you ask any Buddhist practitioner where suffering begins, they won't point to the outside world. They won't say my boss, my past, or my broken relationships. They will point to one place, the mind. The Buddha began the Dhammapada with this exact teaching: Manopabhangama Dhamma. All phenomena are preceded by the mind, governed by the mind, made of the mind. This is not metaphor. This is a radical invitation to take full responsibility for your experience. Everything begins in the mind. The way you interpret a word, the way you respond to a situation, the way you carry memories, how you think of yourself, how you relate to others, all of it is rooted in mental perception. If your mind is clouded by ignorance, everything you experience becomes distorted. If your mind is clear, you can meet life as it is without being shaken by its changes. Theravada Buddhism lays this foundation with absolute clarity. Suffering, dukkha, arises when we misperceive impermanence, when we grasp at what is always shifting, and when we resist what cannot be controlled. But these reactions, grasping, aversion, confusion, don't live in the world outside. They live in the mind. That's where the work must begin. In Mahayana Buddhism, particularly the Yogacara school, the teaching goes even deeper. It says, everything is mind only, citta-matra, not just filtered by mind, but created by it. The way we see the world isn't a direct reflection of what's out there. It's a projection of the seeds and impressions that already live inside us. That's why two people can walk through the same moment and experience it completely differently. One finds peace, one finds pain. The difference isn't outside, it's in the quality and training of the mind. So ask yourself this, not casually but deeply. Who is holding the brush that paints your experience of life? Is it awareness? Or is it habit? Is it clarity? Or is it fear? If you've ever found yourself reacting with anger and then regretting it, if you've ever been caught in anxiety over things that haven't happened yet, if you've ever compared your life to others and felt small, you've experienced the mind running its show without your permission. That's not your fault. but it is your responsibility. Because once you see this truth that everything starts in the mind, you can no longer pretend you are helpless. And that moment of realization, even if it feels humbling, is the very beginning of liberation. Number 2, the wild horse. Understanding the untamed mind. Imagine a horse, strong and fast, full of energy, but untrained. It kicks, bites, runs wildly. You wouldn't put a child on its back. You wouldn't ride it into the city. You wouldn't trust it to take you home. Now imagine your mind racing, reacting, pulling you into emotions you didn't choose, thoughts you didn't invite. In the Buddha's words, the untrained mind is like this wild horse, or like a monkey jumping from branch to branch, never still, never content. In our daily lives, this untamed mind shows up in all the small moments. When we dwell on a mistake long after it's done, when we mentally rehearse an argument that hasn't even happened, when we chase stimulation to escape discomfort, it's the mind that cannot sit still, cannot rest in the present, cannot simply be. Theravada teachings describe this state as a kind of mental restlessness, uddaka kukuka, a hindrance to meditation and to insight. It's not just noisy, it's dangerous. Because while it seems harmless to let the mind wander, every moment of unconscious thought becomes another thread in the net of suffering. Mahayana goes even further. This untamed mind is the very source of samsara, the cycle of birth and death, pleasure and pain, up and down. We are not trapped in this cycle because the world is broken. We are trapped because the mind clings, and it clings because it does not know itself. So how do we tame the wild horse? Not by force, not by suppressing thoughts or feelings, but through training, through attention, through returning again and again to the present. The Buddha's path is not a path of violence, not even toward your own thoughts. It is a path of steady, compassionate discipline. In Theravada, this is where sati mindfulness comes in. Mindfulness is not just awareness, it is directed awareness, grounded and clear. With mindfulness, we begin to see the mind as it is, not as we wish it to be. We see our anger rising before it takes over. We notice our cravings before they become decisions. That is the beginning of mastery. In Mahayana practice, especially in Zen and Tibetan traditions, the untamed mind is not something to fix, but something to observe without judgment. When you sit still, thoughts arise. Let them, watch them, see them as clouds passing in the sky of awareness. No need to push them away, just don't follow them. And in that non-reactive seeing, something beautiful happens. The mind begins to quiet itself. You don't need to kill the wild horse. You need to become its rider. But here's the deeper truth. That wildness you fear is not your enemy. It's your energy, your passion, your creativity, just untamed. When brought into balance through mindfulness and wisdom, that same energy becomes your greatest ally. It becomes the power behind loving kindness, deep insight, and unshakable peace. So don't be afraid of the chaos within you. Be afraid only of ignoring it, because the mind you have right now is the same mind the Buddha had. The difference lies not in the raw material, but in what you choose to do with it. Number 3, stillness is strength, the power of meditation. We live in a world that praises movement, fast answers, fast progress, fast everything. But the Buddha taught something radically different, that the real power in life doesn't come from doing more. It comes from doing less, with full awareness. It comes from stillness. Stillness is not laziness. It is not passivity. It is a form of strength so profound that most people never even touch it. Because sitting with yourself, in silence, with no distractions, no escape, no validation, that takes courage, that takes presence, that takes love. In Theravada Buddhism, this is known as samadhi, the collected, focused mind. Through practices like anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing, and the 4 foundations of mindfulness, satipatthana, we begin to gather the scattered fragments of attention and return them to one place, breath, body, feeling, mind, we begin to see, maybe for the first time, how restless our mind truly is. But in that seeing, we plant the seeds of tranquility. The jhana stages, deep meditative absorptions, aren't mythical states only for monks. They are natural states of the concentrated mind. And even if you don't reach jhana, the very act of sitting and watching the breath is a sacred revolution in a noisy world. Because in that moment, you stop chasing, you stop reacting, you stop becoming, and you start being. In the Mahayana traditions, especially Zen and Dzogchen, the instruction is even simpler. Just sit, not to get somewhere, not to change something, just to be so fully present, so radically here, that thought begins to lose its grip. And what's left? Spaciousness, clarity, awareness without center. Meditation is not the goal. Meditation is the mirror. It shows you what's there and what's always been there. So if your mind feels chaotic, don't run from it. Sit with it. Again and again. It may scream, it may ache, but over time it will soften, it will settle, and one day you'll sit and realize that beneath all the noise was something calm, stable, luminous. Stillness isn't weakness, it's the ground of real power. Number 4, detachment without indifference. Freedom from craving. If you've ever wanted something so badly that it consumed you, you already know this truth. Craving hurts. Whether it's the craving for love, approval, success, or pleasure, it begins as desire, but quickly becomes hunger. And the more we feed it, the hungrier it becomes. The Buddha was crystal clear. Tanha, craving, is the cause of suffering. Not the things themselves, not money, not love, not recognition, but the mental clinging to these things as if they could complete us, as if they could make us whole. In Theravada Buddhism, this insight is central to the Four Noble Truths. Craving leads to becoming bhava, which leads to suffering. And what is the cure? Not denial, not self-hatred, but understanding. When we see deeply into the impermanent, unsatisfactory, and selfless nature of all things, craving begins to fade, not because we suppress it, but because we no longer believe its promises. But here's the challenge. People often confuse detachment with coldness. They think letting go means not caring. That's not true. In Mahayana Buddhism, particularly in the Bodhisattva path, we learn that detachment actually increases compassion. Why? Because when we let go of clinging, we stop needing others to behave a certain way in order for us to be okay. We can finally love them as they are. Letting go doesn't mean pushing life away. It means holding life gently. You can love someone deeply and still let them go if they need to leave. You can enjoy success and still remain unattached to praise. You can grieve a loss without drowning in despair. That's the power of non-clinging. That's the middle path. Look around. Everything is changing. Everything. The body, the job, the relationships, even your own thoughts. If you try to hold on too tightly, you suffer. But if you learn to ride the wave with grace, with open eyes, you begin to taste something profound. Freedom. Freedom, not from life, but within it. Number 5, the observer within. Cultivating awareness. Have you ever had a moment where you noticed your own thoughts, like you were watching them from the outside? Maybe you were angry, but you suddenly realized, this is anger. I'm feeling it, but it's not all of me. That moment of clarity, that's awareness. That's the inner observer waking up. In Buddhism, we call this sati in Pali or smrti in Sanskrit mindfulness. But it's more than just being present. It's remembering to come back again and again, no matter how many times the mind wanders. Theravada practice teaches that this awareness is the beginning of wisdom. When you observe the mind without judgment, you begin to see the patterns. You notice how quickly a pleasant thought becomes clinging, how a painful memory becomes resentment. You stop being a prisoner of the mind and start becoming its witness. And from that witnessing, you begin to find space. Space between stimulus and response. Space to choose. space to breathe, and that space is everything. In Mahayana, especially in Zen and Vajrayana, awareness is not just a tool. It is the very nature of mind. Pure, spacious, luminous awareness, Rigpa in Dzogchen, is what remains when all mental chatter fades. It doesn't need to be created. It needs to be recognized. Here's the beautiful truth. You are not your thoughts. You are not your emotions. You are not your memories. You are the one who sees them. And the more you rest in that seeing, the more the mind loses its power to control you. Not because the mind is bad, but because the true mind is vast, clear, and compassionate, and thoughts are just passing clouds. You don't have to stop thinking. You don't have to fix every emotion. You just have to watch, kindly, steadily, and in time, what you'll find is this: the one who watches is already free.